Have you noticed the strange contradiction at the heart of the AI revolution? On one side, tech billionaires promise us a life of infinite leisure and luxury. They call it universal high income. They claim that within 20 years, robots will do all the work and the cost of living will drop to zero. But then you look at the headlines and you see a very different reality. You see mass layoffs in the tech sector. You see wages stagnating while corporate profits hit record highs. And you see a world where digital intelligence is becoming free, but survival is getting more expensive. We are standing on the edge of a cliff. One path leads to a Star Trek utopia where money is irrelevant. The other leads to a jobless economy where the vast majority of us are left behind. The scary part is that both futures are being built right now, and the difference between becoming a king or a beggar might just come down to physics.
Let's look at what is actually becoming abundant today. If you want to generate a college essay, write complex computer code, or create a stunning image, the cost has effectively dropped to zero. In early 2025, the release of DeepSeek shattered the industry. It proved that high-level intelligence could be trained for a fraction of the cost of previous models. Suddenly, the price of thinking collapsed. We are seeing a massive deflation in the cost of cognitive labor. But here is the problem. You cannot eat software code. You cannot live inside a generated image. While the price of digital goods crashes, the price of physical survival, housing, food, and energy is climbing higher every single year. This creates a dangerous split in our economy. We are entering a world where entertainment and information are infinite, but the things you actually need to survive remain stubbornly scarce. It is the ultimate illusion of wealth. You might have a supercomputer in your pocket that can diagnose any disease, but you still can't afford the rent for a one-bedroom apartment.
This split leads us to a terrifying economic trend that has been building for decades. Economists call it the Great Decoupling. For most of the 20th century, there was a simple deal. If productivity went up, workers' wages went up with it. If the company made more money, you took home a bigger paycheck. But around 1979, that deal broke. Productivity kept rocketing upward thanks to computers and the internet, but wages flatlined. Now, artificial intelligence is about to tear that gap wide open. We are facing a phenomenon called skill leveling. AI tools allow a junior employee to do the work of a senior expert. That sounds great for the junior employee until you realize what happens next. The premium for human expertise evaporates. Why pay a senior lawyer $500 an hour when a fresh graduate with an AI assistant can do the same job for $50? And eventually, why pay the human at all? This isn't just about losing jobs. It is about the destruction of the career ladder. We are hollowing out the middle class, leaving only a tiny elite who own the AI and a massive underclass fighting for scraps.
But there is a hard limit to this digital takeover. We tend to think of AI as this ethereal thing that lives in the cloud. But the cloud isn't magic. It is made of copper, steel, and massive amounts of electricity. And we are running out of them. This is where the fantasy of unlimited abundance slams into the wall of physics. It's called the Jevons paradox. History shows that as technology becomes more efficient, we don't use less energy, we use exponentially more. As AI models become cheaper and faster, we're embedding them into everything. This is triggering an energy crisis that the grid cannot handle. Data centers are projected to consume over 10% of national power by 2030. Tech giants like Microsoft are scrambling to restart nuclear reactors, like the one at 3 Mile Island, just to keep the servers running. And it's not just power. We are facing a global shortage of copper, the metal needed to wire this new world. By 2040, we could see a shortfall of 10 million metric tons.
So while the software might be free, the physical infrastructure required to run it is becoming the most expensive resource on Earth.
While the digital world struggles with power limits, the physical world is facing its own revolution. For years, robots were trapped in cages on factory floors. They were blind, dumb, and dangerous. But that changed in late 2025. NVIDIA called it the ChatGPT moment for robotics. Suddenly, robots could understand the messy, chaotic real world. Tesla has bet its entire future on this. They are pivoting from being a car company to a robotics company. The goal is to mass-produce humanoid robots like the Optimus that can work 24 hours a day without a break. Imagine a factory where the labor cost is effectively zero. A robot doesn't need health insurance, it doesn't need sleep, it doesn't join a union. When these robots hit the market at scale, the cost of physical goods could plummet. That sounds like the abundance we were promised, but it brings us back to the dark side of the equation. If robots are building the cars and AI is writing the code, what is left for humans to do?
This leads to the ultimate economic nightmare. It is not a war against machines. It is a collapse of the capitalist loop. Our entire economy is built on a cycle. Companies pay workers, workers use that money to buy products, companies use that revenue to make more products. But if you remove the workers from the equation, you break the loop. If robots produce everything, but nobody has a paycheck, who buys the products? We could end up with warehouses full of cheap goods that nobody can afford to purchase. This is called demand destruction. The velocity of money, the speed at which cash moves through the economy, could grind to a halt. We are already seeing the warning signs. The labor share of global income has been dropping for years. Wealth is concentrating at the absolute top, in the hands of the companies that own the intelligence. Without a radical change in how money flows, we aren't heading for Star Trek. We are heading for a modern feudalism.
So, what is the solution? Elon Musk argues that we will move to a system of universal high income. He claims that in a positive AI future, money will become like oxygen. You won't need to hoard it because everything you want will be available. But is that realistic? Recent studies give us a glimpse of what might actually happen. Sam Altman's Open Research Group conducted a massive study on basic income. They found that when people are given free money, they don't just sit around. They look for more meaningful work. They take risks. They reclaim their agency. But there is a catch. The study also showed a slight reduction in traditional employment. If we scale that up to the entire population, we have to ask a difficult question. Where does the meaning come from when work is optional? History gives us a clue. Look at the aristocrats of the 19th century. They didn't work, yet they didn't fall into despair. They built complex cultures of art, socializing, and status. They competed for reputation rather than survival. In a best-case scenario, we all become the leisure class. We spend our time in creative pursuits, exploring virtual worlds, and valuing human connection above all else. But that only happens if the wealth is shared.
We are living through the most dangerous transition in human history. The technology for a post-scarcity world is already here. We have the intelligence. We are building the robots. But the economic system is stuck in the past. The next decade will determine whether AI liberates us or makes us obsolete. If we let the current trends continue, we face a future of extreme inequality. A world where a trillionaire class lives in a fortress of abundance while the rest of us fight over scarce resources. But if we can solve the distribution problem, if we can decouple survival from labor, then we might actually reach that universal high income. The abundance is coming, The only question is whether you will be allowed to share in it.